Is there anything you'd like me to go back over?
Yeah.
Yes, Zoe?
Oh, yeah.
I'll be right with you, Aria.
If somebody has a hard time feeling it, are certain people just much more responsive, or is it just that it's a muscle they're not used to feeling into?
A lot of times the problem that we have is that we're not used to tapping into that level. Our society and our culture teaches us to live from the neck up. Mm-hmm. So one of the biggest challenges that we have with people is getting them back into their bodies, getting them to pay attention to the feeling. Now, one of the fastest ways that you can do that is through this exercise we call postures of power, or power postures. There's a TED Talk by Amy Cuddy. If you go to YouTube and you pull up the term power postures, they've done a lot of research. I've been teaching this since 2005, but they finally got around to proving it. Any physiology that you have has a corresponding psycho-emotional state. If I go into a state of being absolutely confident, absolutely victorious, and I hold it for as little as 2 minutes, your testosterone can go up as much as 25%. That's science. Okay? Everything we do, every feeling that we have, has a corresponding physiology and breathing. Depression is rampant in this country. True, not true?
True.
What's the physiology of depression? When someone's depressed, what do they look like? Kind of look like this, huh? How many of us work at a computer all day long? You want to get, for those of you who are going to be in situations that are going to be extremely emotional or extremely challenging, if you learn to take positive control of your physiology and you remember to hold the physiology, your emotional state cannot be degraded. Okay, there's a drill that I teach. In fact, we'll do it when we come back. We'll get into some of the state control work and show you how to keep people from pushing your buttons forever. Would that be cool? Okay. And again, it has everything to do with how you stand and how you breathe. Okay? Aria, you had a question.
You said what you called your grid.
Mm-hmm.
It will have two parts, proprioception
and your mirror neurons. Proprioception, if you actually believed in psychic abilities or energy, which I don't, that's the test. It would actually be your proprioceptive nervous system, but it wouldn't be your sixth sense, as we like to call it. It would be your sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth sense, maybe even up to 12th. Why? Because there are at least 12 different nerve endings or types of information that your proprioceptive nervous system monitors, one of which is spatial locations, one of which is electromagnetic fields, another is mechanoreception, nociception, and interoception. Interoception is the feelings inside of your body. Mechanoreception is the positions in space that you have. It's monitoring all of these things, but it's doing it pre-consciously. It's operating below the threshold of your conscious awareness. Remember that three-stage model I showed you? You have the reptile brain, you have the limbic system, which is the emotional brain, and then you have the neocortex. Your neocortex is the conscious mind, for lack of a better word. It is the least informed and the last to know anything. By the time information reaches your conscious awareness, it has been filtered and processed and reprocessed, not once, not even hundreds of times, but thousands, even more. It's been so processed and so refined and so managed and manipulated that what you get is barely a facsimile of reality. Okay? The more we can learn to work with that pre-conscious processing that we do and the system that, the building blocks of that code, the more power we gain over it. Your mirror neurons are the flip side, in that they take whatever you do see through your five senses and they actually cause the person watching to have their nervous system actually repeat what it's seeing. What do I mean by that? When mirror neurons were first discovered, they were discovered by accident in Italy. There was a research group researching the brain patterns of monkeys. They had monkeys hooked up to these, I think it was EEGs and maybe some CT scans. And by accident one day, one of the monkeys was wired up to the machines and it was watching one of the lab assistants peel a banana. And another one of the lab assistants happened to come in and was looking at the machine that the monkey was strapped into. And he noticed something. He noticed that the parts of the monkey's brain and nervous system that would be operational if he were peeling the banana were firing at the same time he was watching the lab assistant peel the banana. So when I'm up here and I'm walking people through this, you see me acting out these things. It's not random. I'm acting out exactly what I want her nervous system to do with the information. It's being processed by your mirror neurons. Scientists have gone so far as to say the mirror neurons in our body are the physiological component that governs empathic communication and intuitive learning. Okay? If you want to read up the information on that, you can look up a book called Mirroring Others. The last name of the author is Jacoboni with a J. Jacoboni, I believe. But if you just type in Mirroring Others or Mirroring People in Amazon, you should get a whole bunch of books on mirror neurons. So what I'm doing up here is not metaphysics. It's high-level neuroscience. It's just synergized in a way that makes it user-friendly. I try to keep away from the terminology. The bottom line is point to where you feel it. Be fully absorbed in the process. Point to where you feel it. Notice the color. Reach in physically. You got to physically do this. Trust me. The people who get the least amount of change are the ones who sit there and do it like this. It can work. No, I'm not making fun of you. It can work. Hypnotists do this all the time. Neuro-linguistic programmers do this all the time. But when you get the meat involved, when you get that meat suit acting out the changes you want it to make with that construct that we've created, you create a powerful interface between all the different levels of your mind and body, and it's a language that all of them understand. You can sit there and speak affirmations all day long, and maybe it'll work and maybe it won't. You start acting out what you want your nervous system to manifest, it will happen. It will happen. Okay, I've seen this too many times. The only time people don't get change is when they hold back. They don't fully engage in the process. There's a part of them afraid of making a fool of themselves or being laughed at or looking weird or self-conscious, and they don't fully engage in the process. And it still works to a certain degree. And you know what? If you have something that's like on a shittiness scale of 0 to 10, and you go from a 9 to a 7 on the first pass, is that okay? Just do it again until you zero it out, because that's what we do. I've literally taken people who have things at a 9 and an 8 and 9 scale, and we just keep doing this. Boom, boom, boom. I had one guy, I was doing a Skype session, and it was for cancer, a cancer tumor. And I actually had to treat him over 2 sessions because he got weird and freaked out the first time we started doing this. He's feeling for this tumor in his scapula. And I wasn't sure if it was the tumor he was feeling for or just trying to find the pain. But basically it was like an 8. We did the spin the first time, knocked it from an 8 to a 6. And he gets this weird look on his face. It's like, and so we wash, rinse, repeat. Notice where you feel it. Notice the color. Take it out, spin it, put it back in. Drops from an 8 or 6 to a 4. He's like, and he's getting visibly agitated now. And he's digging for it. He's looking for it. Right? So we took it out. We spun it one last time, dropped it down to a 2. And now he's really freaking out. And I left it there. I left it there because I didn't want him to go into an abreaction or something that he was coming up on the end of his session, and we didn't want to go into overtime or whatever. And I could see he needed some time to assimilate what was going on. So we left it there. 2 weeks later, it took 2 weeks for it to start to come back. And the next time we went in, he was ready for it. And we went all the way down to a 0. And as far as I know, it hasn't come back. My point is that the subjective part of it will go away first. And then the body will catch up. The body is always playing catch up with the mind. Does that make sense? I've used this to take away tumors. I've used this to take away herpes outbreaks, chronic constipation, phobias, fears, you name it. If you can point to where you feel it in your body, find the color, take it out and spin it, you can change it. However, be prepared, because when you put it back in and it starts to come up, emotions will come up. Those are the emotions that were keeping the feeling locked in place. Now, a lot of times it just goes away. It doesn't come back. There's no abreaction. There's no emotional purging. That's okay. Sometimes it is. So when I teach this to my therapy students, I tell them, you got to let them know that that's going to happen. When you do this on yourself, and there's a lot of people in this room who have been through this process with me or have seen it on YouTube, talk to them. Who's done this process with me before? Just raise your hands. During the break, talk to these people or have them do it to you if you want. A lot of these guys are certified. So by all means, let's take our break, come back, and we'll get into some really cool stuff.